Hey there, so I'm driving, so I'm not going to be looking at the camera, I'm not going to be talking to the camera, but I'm kind of talking out loud because I was recently listening, actually just recently, I just got done and turned it off and then turned my camera on, to a podcast called, I don't remember what it's called.
Wisconsin 441 South Stevens Point.
The thing I wanted to bring up about the podcast, though, and I'll link it in the comments if I decide to ever post this video.
Turn right to US 10 West, Wisconsin 441 South.
I'm also driving, if you couldn't figure that out. The thing I found so incredibly important about this podcast, though, was the subject matter. And it talked specifically about how to deliver an effective apology. And the thing I found so significant about this is not just the strength of admitting when we're wrong, admitting that even if we don't believe that we were wrong, or even if we had strong justification for what we were doing, that we still hurt someone. But the thing I found incredibly impactful was what was said about if you don't have the time to go through the steps that they recommend to deliver an effective apology, the one piece of the apology that is so important to put through. So if you're in a certain circumstance and you can't go through all of these steps, this is the one element of all, this is the one step that you should really reinforce and that you should really bring home, because it's by far the one that people recognize as the most important to eventually repairing the relationship. And that is taking accountability and admitting that you're responsible. So again, even if you don't feel that you did anything wrong, or even if you don't feel that there was a justification, or even if there was a justification, a strong justification for what you did, admitting and acknowledging that you hurt someone is so important. And so I'm going to loop this back around to a very politically significant recent moment that I think I can sum it up for people who don't understand. So the recent ongoing conversations around Judge Kavanaugh's confirmation hearing and around what happened is, I often got feedback from those around me that said, well, he was young, he was stupid, and while what he did was not right, you can't prove that what he did truly happened. And I would agree with that. As a victim of sexual assault, I want to believe, and I want to believe that he was at fault, but I also recognize that you can't always prove that. And we can't destroy a man's life, if you will, on an accusation that we can't prove, okay? But here's the thing. This is the thing that was lacking in all of Judge Kavanaugh's testimony, in all of the responses to his testimony, is an apology. And it wasn't just an apology for what he did, but an apology in general. There was no acknowledgement that there could have been fault and that he might have done something. There was plenty of acknowledgement about how much he liked beer. And there was plenty of acknowledgement of, he liked to kind of party with his friends. But there was no acknowledgement of the fact that, you know what, I'll be honest with you. I like beer. I like beer a lot. And, sometimes I drink a lot. And, at that time in my life, if something did happen, I am deeply sorry for it. But instead, it was nothing like that could have ever happened. And I think most adults understand that that's just not true. It's just not. I cannot tell you how many people I know, both men and women, who get really handsy when they get drunk. And I think the biggest overall misunderstanding is, while she was accusing him of sexual assault in the sense of he tried to rip her clothes off, she was not accusing him of rape. So in a situation where a young man goes to a party and gets really handsy and really flirty, they might not realize even in that situation that it's sexual assault. And so he didn't want to admit to that. And what he failed to do was acknowledge the fact that, you know what, I'm human just like everybody else. And I don't condone what I did. I don't agree with what I did. I'm an adult now. I am a very high-standing member of society, and I would never accept that this is okay. There was no acknowledgement of that, and I think that's what has so many people so upset about this. I think if he had come out and said, I made a mistake, I did something wrong, or even if he had come out and said, you know what, the accusations are there, and because there are situations in my life that are kind of questionable on whether or not it happened, I need to say I'm sorry. I need to acknowledge that there could be some responsibility that I hold. Because he didn't do that, that's why so many people are upset. And that's why there was such an uproar about it. That's why there's still such a conversation going on. And I think it's not about media presence. It's not about ongoing political conversations. Kavanaugh's political views aside, I think he was probably a pretty good judge. Otherwise, he wouldn't have gotten to where he is. And Trump's nomination or Obama's nomination, it shouldn't matter. What should matter is how they present themselves as an adult, as an example for our children, as an example for our society. These are this group of people are going to be the ones who are going to be making laws. And if they can't take personal accountability for their own actions or for the actions of the people that they hung out with in high school, then there is something wrong with that. And I think as a Senate and as a Congress, they owe it to acknowledge to the people that the whole confirmation process was unheard of. It was ridiculous. Democrats and Republicans all together, they made mistakes in this entire confirmation process, and they need to admit to it. They need to acknowledge that the decision that they have made could potentially hurt future generations, and that acknowledgement isn't there, and I think that's what people are so upset about. So I've said my piece. Like I said, I don't know if I'll even post this video, but if I do, please feel free to give feedback or to not, because it's not really a piece that's going out there to spark conversation. It's just going out there to give you an alternative perspective. So anyway, have a great day.